And welcome to the Anglo-Italian podcast for this Euro 2024 review. And we'll be talking about the beloved Italy. And we have no better man to take us through the Italian preview than Alfredo from Azzurri TV. He's been busy kind of doing other interviews and hosting events, but we're delighted to have him on. So Alfredo, great to have you on. More importantly, how are you feeling about this upcoming Euros?
How am I feeling? It's a fantastic question, Adam. I'm not massively confident. I don't think you would find a lot of Italian fans that are. But it's a strange one. I think we're a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment. And, it's a sort of situation where I wouldn't be surprised if we got knocked out of the group stage. It's a tough group. But I similarly wouldn't be surprised if we got to the semi-finals and had a really good run. I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, and I think that's what I want to start off with, which is how Luciano Spalletti, when he came into the role, I think there was kind of a feeling of pessimism with this Italian squad after the kind of highs of the previous Euros. And it feels like right now he's rejuvenated this squad, given them a bit more confidence, maybe a bit more belief, more importantly. And we've kind of started to see some of the players maybe benefiting from that. And in particular, we've seen great form in the likes of Gianluca Scamacca, for example, and potentially that is the word that Spalletti and Gasperini have had in his ear. But how do you feel that's kind of spawned out in terms of the Italian kind of optimism or maybe mood right now? Do you feel like Italian fans are a bit more optimistic compared to when Mancini was in charge?
Perhaps. I mean, I think generally Italian fans tend to kind of be half glass empty when it comes to tournaments anyway. However, you are right. I mean, as Mancini went on, the World Cup, not getting into it, the team fell flat. He was playing a lot of players who needed to be moved on with the Nations League last year. It was a perfect example of that. So when Spalletti came in after the season he'd had at Napoli, I think everyone was a bit, oh wow, this is exciting, and yeah, I think we've definitely seen examples of this Italy looking rejuvenated, a bit more ignited. I mean, I thought we played really well against Ukraine at home, and the two friendlies were okay against Venezuela and Ecuador. But similarly, there has also been some games like England at Wembley where I've thought, we looked a bit naive at the back. And I think Spalletti's like that, though. Spalletti, I've always found to be a bit of a footballing romantic. Sometimes his teams play absolutely beautiful football and they'll blow you away 3-0. Or he'll have his defenders on the halfway line and you'll get countered 85 times and you'll lose 8-0. He's like that. And we've seen glimpses of playing some really good football, but we've also seen, sometimes maybe him not being absolutely certain of what he's going to do moving forward with this team.
Yeah, and I think we will reflect on it right now is that Italy did take on Turkey last night. It ended up in a 0-0 draw. Did you think it kind of cemented some of the questions or doubts that maybe Spalletti had, or do you think there's still a lot more being kind of opened up as a result of that game?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard to take 100% from these pre-tournament friendlies. As always, I think both teams are probably a bit on edge, not wanting to put too much into it. However, watching the game was very underwhelming. I thought we lacked so much guile going forward in the final third. Chiesa was poor. Orsolini might have played himself out of the squad. And Retegui, I also thought, looked really poor in midfield again. Jorginho had a poor game for his standards. He didn't really dictate. Cristante shouldn't really be playing 90 minutes for Italy before a tournament. That is extremely worrying. I'm starting to get a bit shaky about Cristante possibly starting. But yeah, I mean, there were some positives. I thought Cambiasso looked sharp when he came on.
Yeah,
Fiori for the 10-minute cameo looked, quite assured. But yeah, it was just a bit of a flat performance. And if you compare that to the pre-tournament friendly 3 years ago against Czech Republic, I think it was 4-0, and we absolutely blew them away, and we were purring. It was a far cry from that.
Yeah. Well, let's allude to the man that is Spalletti, and obviously, I think at the time, it was kind of seen as a great replacement for Mancini, given the context of how Mancini left the role. But briefly, I mean, how do you think he's going to set up? Because we have had a few injuries recently that may force his hand in terms of the personnel. But do you think he's going to stick to that kind of rigid formation that he's traditionally been known for, which is that 4-3-3 formation?
I'm not. I don't think he should.
Hmm.
I think this Italy side is tailor-made for a back five, a back three. Even so, with injuries to Acerbi and Scalvini, I think the squad lends itself better to a 3 or a 5 at the back. I think the performance yesterday cemented that. I thought, I'm not sure we have the wide players, the wide wingers, to really excel in that system. And, you know, like I said, Spalletti is a man who is he's a romantic, and he has his ideas and his identity. However, he's not a stupid manager.
Yeah, of course.
And I think if he understands, he's experimented with the 5 at the back, and after yesterday, I think he probably should understand that this squad, you know, you've got an Inter team who are extremely strong, who can be the core and foundation of this Italy side, who play 3 at the back. I'd just go with it.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that's the way he should do it. And I think about the defenders that he's got at his disposals, I think they're mainly used to a 3 in the back setup as well. So given the form, as you mentioned, Calafiori coming into Buongiorno, for example, I think is a bright future. Even Mancini, a guy that I don't really rate, he's more comfortable in that kind of 3, so to speak. However, he has been deployed in a different role. Exactly. So we've got a lot of opportunities there. And in terms of that kind of midfield role as well, do you think he's going to go with those kind of more suited to those positions, or do you think he's going to try something different dependent on the opposition as well?
Well, assuming that he plays 3 in midfield, which I think is likely, there'll be there'll be a regista, and then there'll be either a 10 and then an 8 or 2 8s. I think two of the positions are nailed on. I think Jorginho starts and Barella starts. The third man, take your pick. Maybe it's Pellegrini, who's playing a bit more advanced, Fagioli, Fratesi, even, like, take your pick, really. I really don't know who that third man will be. But I think those two are nailed on. And I think that's a strong midfield. A base midfield of Jorginho and Barella is a very, very good midfield. Then obviously the third man will kind of manifest itself however it will, whether it's Pellegrini playing off of Scamacca and Chiesa as like 2 inside forwards. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly a lot of dilemmas anyway for certain Spalletti to think about. So let's move into the players to look out for. I mean, there's a huge abundance of talents there. Potentially, we could be talking of a few that unfortunately got themselves injured, the likes of Udogi, for example, Scalvini being one of them as well. But we've got the likes of Calafiori, who I am definitely looking forward to potentially if he can make that step up in this tournament. But yeah, from your point of view, is there anyone we should be kind of maybe keeping an eye out on?
I think apart from the obvious, I mean, I'm not sure how obvious it will be, because I know he's just won the Europa League, but I think among Europe after his kind of stint at West Ham, he was kind of forgotten about by a lot of people. But Gianluca Scamacca has been absolutely fantastic, and he's been on fire for the last 2 or 3 months. Everything he touches turns into a goal, and every goal he scores is seemingly an absolute worldie. It's like Matt Letizia has injected him with a bit of his DNA. And he's just been absolutely fantastic recently. His hold-up play, his feet are so quick. He's great in the air. His ball striking is absolutely brilliant. He just leads a line so well. Conditionally, he leads a line so well when he wants to, because as we have seen from Scamacca, he's not always the sharpest pencil in the pot, and he's not always massively bothered when you watch him on a football pitch. Obviously, we know Spalletti kind of had a go at him after the Ukraine game for not tracking back and not working, and made a comment about some players being up till 4 a.m. playing their PlayStation the night before. Whether that was Scamacca or not, we still jury's still out on that. But he has been absolutely brilliant, and I think anyone who's watched Serie A and has known Scamacca for the last 4 or 5 years, knows what a talent he is.
Yeah.
It's just when he decides to turn it on. And for the last 2 or 3 months, he has been. So hopefully he can carry that into the tournament. Apart from him, I would probably go with Cambiaso, who's had an absolutely brilliant at Juve. I think he really is super talented. And I think he might have played himself into the team yesterday, because when he came on, I thought he looked extremely dynamic and creative, something we lacked a lot of. And I think he can really be that kind of Spinazzola from last tournament, that driving creative force in a deep wide position. And then, apart from those two, I think you have the regulars, the Bastonis, Barellas.
Yeah.
Chiesa, question mark. I don't know what to expect from him. I'm not sure if he's too deep into the Allegri hole to ever get back out, but we'll see. We'll see.
One area that I think has always been kind of seen as a safe area is the goalkeeping department as well. But it also kind of gives that dilemma. Now, I know Vicario did play yesterday in the friendly against Turkey, which was great to see, I think, for most Italians. But do you think that is another area that potentially Spalletti will kind of maybe go closer to the tournament and maybe judge based on who he prefers? Because obviously, he's got Alex Meret currently in that squad. Ivan Provedel, we know about his credentials with Lazio, but it looks likely that it's going to be a toss-up between Donnarumma as well as Vicario. So do you think that is going to be a dilemma for Spalletti?
I'm not sure. I'm not so sure it should be. I think Vicario is great, and I really, really like him as a goalkeeper. However, Donnarumma up until now hasn't really made any obviously glaring enough errors for the national team, I think, to be questioned as a number one. If it comes a point during the tournament where he, some of those errors he makes at PSG slips into his performances for Italy, then that's definitely a question and something to be investigated. But up until now, I'm not sure Donnarumma has done too much wrong for the national team to be considered changing.
And then quickly as well, just sprung in my head, I think the question mark around the midfield, I think we've pretty much certain that there's going to be certain individuals in the positions. But however, I feel from a backup perspective, David Fratese's had a great season, even though he's been a bit part for Inter. But I'm really interested about Folorunsho. I don't know about you, but I think he adds a bit of stamina into that midfield that maybe the likes of when Jorginho does tie it in matches, then he can add that energy as well. But he has a fantastic shot on him as well. And he's had quite the second half at Hellas Verona. But yeah, I mean, do you think there's a future for him in this Azzurri squad?
I'm not entirely sure. I quite like him as a player. I think he drives forward so well. I actually watched, quite sadly today, the friendly. It was Italy against the under-20s at Coverciano, and he played the first half for the national team, and he did look a bit out of place, I found, just watching him. And I know it was only like 35, 40 minutes of football, but I'm just not sure he yet is ready for that step up, especially when you have players like Fagioli and Fratesi in front of him. Ricci, again, today was brilliant. He played for the under-20s in the first half as a deep-lying midfielder. Him and Pafundi were absolutely sensational. But yeah, I'm not sure Folorunsho is quite ready for that step. However, what I do like about him, he does provide a different dynamic among a group of midfielders who are perhaps not that varied.
Yeah, certainly. It adds a bit more height as well. It's my general thoughts on him. But Alfredo, I'm going to push you for predictions now. Now, we haven't kind of gone too far in terms of the group stages, but this is a fascinating group in itself because you've got some fantastic matchups, and Albania won't be any pushovers as shown in the Poland qualification group as well, where they dominated that group quite handsomely. And they've got some interesting players that are well known to Serie A and more importantly to the Azzurri fan base as well. But if you look at it, Croatia as well as Spain, they're also kind of questioning whether their teams are going to make it through to this kind of next stage as well. So it does set itself up for some fascinating ties. I mean, there's going to be the obvious doubt whether Italy can make it through, but this is a huge test in itself, regardless of the tournament itself. But Yeah, how are you feeling about these group matches so far?
How am I feeling after spending all the money to fly over there next week? And I'm watching that performance last night. Not that good. I don't know. I think it's imperative that we win against Albania in that first game. I think if you can get 3 points against Albania, you've kind of nearly secured yourself at least a third place finish with one win.
Yeah.
But it's going to be extremely tight. You know, like I said at the start, I really don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a stinker in the group, but then I wouldn't be surprised if we scrape through the group, maybe get a good draw. The second place team, if we finish second, we get the second place team in the Germany group, which, you know, could be Hungary, Switzerland, or Scotland. You know, you get through that, you're in the quarterfinals. Anything can happen. So if I'm being realistic, I think the minimum target should be the quarterfinal. As holders and as Italy, the minimum target should be the quarterfinal. However, I think there's 4 teams better than Italy. I think England, France, Portugal, Germany, maybe Spain are all better than Italy. So I think quarterfinals is an achievable target. And then, as we know, what happens after that happens. You never know. You might find yourself in a final. You might find yourself on the way home. So I don't know. Quarterfinal. I'm going to go quarterfinals is what I'm going to go for.
Good and bold. That's all I can say. So that's what we wanted, Alfredo. So
you know it's great. Worrying when saying Italy get into the quarterfinals is bold. That's telling me I should be worried.
I think it's good, Boldo, in that respect. Okay. I think you need to be positive, right, rather than pessimistic in that respect. So delighted to say that you've been able to put your kind of flag in the mast and say definitely quarterfinals. So thank you for giving us that insight. But before we let you go, more importantly, where can people find your work, apart from obviously when you're hosting events these days anyway?
So on TikTok, just make football videos about Italian football when I can. Instagram as well, I guess. Put all my little interview snippets on there as well if you want to catch some of those. But yeah, that's it. TikTok, Azzurri TV, or Instagram, Alfredo Marabese.
Good stuff. Well, all I can say is safe travels. Hopefully you get the result that you want, and more importantly, desire, and that money isn't wasted. Definitely. It's all about the experiences. That's the most important thing. So
you can't experience the highs without experiencing the lows. Come on.
Exactly. But beautiful having you on. Thank you very much, and good luck to the Azzurri.
Pleasure as always.